I need to come up with a better introduction because it seems so weird to just be, hi, and welcome back to the... So I can't think of an intro, so we should just start talking because...
Well, so I think it's still good to keep introducing who we are.
Okay, let's do that.
At least names.
All right. I'm Dave. This is Brian. I am a champion certified coach. Been coaching motorcycles 25 years. Run a YouTube channel. You're probably familiar with me. Brian?
I've been riding bikes with Dave for close to 2 decades now, I think. I race motorcycles. I have street ridden. I do dirt bikes. I do all kinds of stuff on 2 wheels.
And you're an actual engineer and you know things about how things work. So that's always nice. Yeah, so MotoGP, we've had a lot since our last podcast. We've had 2 races since our last podcast.
So first question.
Yes.
So who do you think is going to win the championship?
Oh, that's first of all, it's like, come on. What is, I saw a graphic today that showed the last 3 years, the points at this round. So 3 years ago, and I might be off by a few points. 3 years ago, Bagnaia was in the lead at 280 points or something like that.
That sounds right.
Last year, Jorge Martin was in the lead at like 290 points. Right now, Marquez is in the lead at 380 points. He's a full 100 points ahead of the leader at the halfway point the last 2 years. So I think, barring some massive event or injury,
barring his retirement,
hopefully no injury. I don't want to see him get
what
injured.
could possibly stop him at this point?
Yeah, I think it's a 4-pound conclusion.
But it's impressive to see someone, because he's won 10 races in a row, sprints and GPs, right?
Yeah.
So 5 perfect weekends in a row, and he hasn't even looked touchable. Like, no one's close.
Well, I thought it was really, really interesting. All right, so the Bruno race I thought was really, really awesome because they hadn't been there in 5 years, so nobody had any data, right? So nobody really had the advantage. If anybody had the advantage, it was Honda because they did testing there like 2 weeks ago, right? So everybody was figuring this out on their own. And of course, we get rain for the first day and a half. So nobody actually really gets to practice. Now we get thrown into the sprint race, and this just really, I think, and I'm not really a Marc Marquez super fan, but this kind of makes you where I'm going. They get both of them have the tire pressure warning on their front thing.
Him and Bagnaia.
So what does Pecco do? Right? Pecco slows down in the middle of a straightaway so that the guy can catch him, and then because he slows down in a straightaway, not only does one rider pass him, 2 riders pass him. And so he gives up second place into 4th.
Yep.
Where does Marquez decide to slow down? At the entrance to a corner. And he's waiting in the corner. So as soon as he comes through at the slow point, he can get right back onto his wheel and doesn't really lose any. He gives up the position to get more heat onto his front tire. But how much more tactical was Marquez in that moment to not give up a position where things were fast, but to give up a position where things were really slow. That's like, who's thinking at that level?
I mean, it's just him. He's the only one
at that point.
Yeah. So the sprint was interesting because of the nonsense tire issue. And the bigger thing that was even nonsense about that was it was incorrect. Right. Neither of them actually were below pressure. The FIM had screwed up calibrating their sensors, I guess, that round or something where it wasn't actually reading it correctly. So neither of them was actually too low. It was just a false alarm, basically. So that's, but it's made up drama, but it's drama nonetheless. So we'll take it. But yeah, and you could tell when, as soon as Pecco got into the pack, it was back to normal Pecco where he couldn't make a pass. He couldn't even hang on to people. He looked easy to pass somehow.
Right.
And Mark was lashed on the back of Pedro, and Pedro he had to have known the whole time when it's, plus 0.93, it's just a matter of time. He's just waiting, and as soon as he went, he pulled another, half a second out within 2 laps, and that was it. So like I was glad something happened in the race to give it some interest, but he's just on another level right now. So there's not much of a championship battle happening, I would say.
No, it was also interesting. You saw a lot of emotional responses, and I think because there was less data, right? Yep. They are all figuring out things as they go.
That was the interesting thing I thought about it, because you saw in both races, the Aprilias Bez was really close. The Aprilias were much closer. The KTMs were up there. I mean, when was the last time you saw a KTM and an Aprilia on a podium?
Right.
Seasons ago, I think. Like, I don't remember the last time it happened. But it was, I think it highlighted, I think we've always thought, and it's probably still true, but we've always thought, well, the Ducati is far and away, light years ahead, the best bike. But I don't know if it's the best bike everywhere, or if they just have the best data and they're the best at using data than the other teams right now.
They have, I mean, they obviously invested a lot of money in it, right? They have the talent. They have Gigi Dall'Igna, who's a genius, right? You have alien riders. You have F1, Ferrari, aero guys, right? They have all these things. And, you know, KTM was doing really great. And then now they've been dealing with what they've been dealing with. Aprilia, I still contest that I think Aprilia is probably the closest to the Ducati, but they never had an alien until now. And I was really curious to ask you what your impression was of Martin's performance, his first real time on the bike. Since, you know, he did a practice session, a couple of practice sessions, then crashed really bad at the first round. And here he is halfway into the season. What did you think of his performance?
So I think he finished 6th or something around there, 6th or 7th, which I think you'd have to say was pretty good for a guy who hasn't been here all year. And this is still a new bike to him. And I can't imagine the baggage he's still carrying from all of the injuries. Right? When you've been out for that long, and he was, you know, for a long time fearing for his career, but for a while fearing for his life when his injuries first happened with the, you know, in Qatar with the punctured
lung. Yeah, like that's scary.
These were very legitimate injuries. That's going to rattle anybody, you know? And so I think, and then it actually kind of, so watching the interviews that he did during the event, because he was never going to get away from the press at this event after all the chaos with him and his manager, you saw it quickly reminded you of the human side of this whole thing, where you saw this person, this young guy, really, and how emotional he was and how affected he was from all of this. It's not just, oh, he's paid millions of dollars to go race a bike, like buck up and do it. It's like, no, he's still a human being. And I think all of those injuries led him to this path of trying to get out of Aprilia. I think that was a factor anyway, where he was making poor decisions in an injury, or while he was dealing with an injury. And, you know, probably in a few months or so with some hindsight, he'll really look back and regret that behavior.
Didn't he say, or is it rumor, I don't remember where I heard it, that Marquez called and talked to him and said, don't make a big decision when you're injured, right? And I don't know if he was just saying that to kind of walk back, you know, some of the things he was saying and doing the last couple of months, that, oh, I was injured, I was in an emotional state, if he walked that back. But I agree with you, you know, or I agree with that whole sentiment. Don't make a big life-changing decision when you're injured.
Yeah.
Right? You're not thinking clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know. We'll see. I think had we taken bets 2 weeks ago on how this was all going to shake out, you'd have gotten long odds on the fact that he was going to stay with Aprilia for the rest of the career.
I'm delighted to see him stay with Aprilia, especially like Bez is a very talented rider, but he's not a special rider, you know? And I don't mean that disrespect. Like, all of these guys are magnificent, but he's not an alien. And to see him so close to the front on the Aprilia, I think, he's putting in the time, obviously, right? I think the bike's super capable. I think it speaks really highly for Bez and for the Aprilia. And to see Martin, like, this Aprilia is not even the same Aprilia he rode at the beginning of the season. They've made a lot of changes to that package over the last several months. So to kind of get on a brand new bike cold, you know, like you and I all the time, we hop on a motorcycle we've never ridden before, and there's like an acclimation period. I can't just go out and go fast.
Right.
And, you know, he was like a second off of Marquez's pace within like 20 minutes into the session. And you're like, well, shit.
I'm pretty proud of that.
Way to go. Like, I think, I still have high hopes for him. I'm happy to see him maybe calm down a little bit and thinking more clearly.
It was impressive to, Aprilia has a new technical director person that they kind of cherry picked from Ducati, but the team manager, Romagnoli, I think is how you say his name, was saying in an interview, it's the first time, and he's been around motorbike racing for ages. He says this first half of this season, he says it's the first time I've ever seen pretty much every single technical rollout, every new swing arm, new wing, new whatever, new little gadget, new everything has worked. Every time we roll something out, the test drivers are like, this is better, put it on their bike. Every one of them. He says, usually it's hit or miss. Some things work, some things don't. Some things this rider loves, this rider doesn't. But the direction they're going right now seems extremely positive. And I think they're closing the gap to the Ducati really quickly.
And you add to that, the Ducati made some missteps.
Yep.
Either with their chassis. Yep. We've heard different theories that they changed the engine casing, so now they can't go back to the old chassis and whatever, and you can't change the engine for a 2-year cycle because they don't, whatever. Very complicated stuff. Yeah. But Ducati's slowed progression has made it easier for KTM and Aprilia, and thankfully Yamaha and Honda to catch up to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And like, my gosh, I cannot wait. I think we might see it after the summer break, the V4 Yamaha. Like the V4 savior. I'm really excited to see Yamaha come in with the V4 because I think Quartararo is an alien. I think he is a special rider, and his willingness to put his head down and work so hard when he's on such an inferior bike and be out there just pushing to his limits and, being at the front of the race at the beginning of the race until, he can't anymore. That's incredible.
So who's the second best rider in MotoGP right now?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. The second best rider, you really want to say, little brother Marquez, Alex Marquez. I don't know. I think it might be Quartararo, if I'm being honest with you.
Make a pretty good case for Quartararo.
Who would you say?
Now that he's back, I would almost say Martin, even though he obviously hasn't had time.
I think we need more time with Martin before I can say that.
But maybe that's almost in his favor, in my opinion, is like, but maybe he's going to make a race.
I've been such a fan of Martin because he wasn't born with the silver spoon. All right. This kid has worked his way here the hard way.
Yep.
But, even last year when he was on the same bike as Pecco, he was luckier than Pecco. Pecco kept making bad decisions and having bad luck.
Yep.
And kind of lost the championship more than Martin won it.
I would agree with that because Pecco because I think of the two in 2024, you would have said, oh, Martin's the more reckless, the more Kevin Schwantz type of personality. And, Bagnaia should be Steady Eddie is who you would have portrayed them as.
Yeah, a D'Amicio.
Not at all how the season played out. It was much more Bagnaia was making the mistakes and crashes, and Martin brought it home a lot more often.
I read an article a year ago that effectively said the same thing, that we look at Pecco as this refined, polished rider, but he is more of a Schwantz. He's more of a take chances, win it or bin it. And the Ducati, by the nature of how it's put together and the stability of the bike, it makes everybody look like they are a polished, refined rider.
Because it's kind of the only way you see people ride. It's very wheels in line.
Yeah.
Brake in a straight line, tip it in. Don't get too crazy with it because you'll fall down.
Well, and that's where you see Marquez make the mistakes, right? When you can see he's getting stressed and he starts to fall back to how he rode the Honda, that's when he has bad luck on the Ducati. And to his credit, to change your entire riding style to match a motorcycle. Yeah. I mean, that's what Casey Stoner did and made him so effective, was his ability to adapt to the bike. Yeah. But I think the Ducati just needs to be ridden a certain way and brings up everybody's good traits to the surface.
Yeah. So they're on summer break. We've got, I think it's 3 weeks off from the next round. Halfway through the season. I think the championship's a foregone conclusion. I don't think anything's going to change there. I am curious in MotoGP, though, if we say, okay, 25 is done, 26 is coming, can anybody stock them in 26 or beyond?
All right, so 26, what's changing in 26?
Basically nothing, actually, because this is the year of the freeze, same tires, same bikes.
Right.
Pause development. I don't know of any major rider team shifts the only
There's no silly season this year.
not as much. Like they've got to sort out who's going to be Toprak's teammate.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. All right, so let's talk about that really quick. Is Toprak going to do as well as everybody thinks he's going to do?
This'll sound harsh. I think he's going to be sort of a bit of a disappointment.
We should disagree more because I think so too. I think he's coming from a Pirelli. He's coming from a very different tire. He's obviously unbelievably talented, but I don't think a lot of people appreciate how different it is to ride a MotoGP bike. Because who else came from World Superbike to MotoGP?
I mean, the last one that had any success was Ben Spies.
Right, and Ben Spies,
he won 3 Grand Prix total, I think.
Yes,
which is, especially during the Rossi, Stoner, Lorenzo, that era, that's not nothing. That's pretty impressive.
Right, but he also, I can't remember now, thinking back, because I followed history. He had some bad luck as well, and he was big. So he was physically bigger.
He's probably 6 foot, give or take,
which is enormous.
He's a big tall. He's like, when he was on the satellite Yamaha, his first year was great, and then he got to the factory team, and the first year was pretty good. And then I think the second year on the factory team, he had all manner of weird mechanical, technical.
Right. Yeah.
Like, do you remember in Laguna, the shock linkage?
I was at that race when it happened. Yeah.
And it was like the 4th thing of the season that failed. That's like that. You're like, that doesn't happen. Something's going on in that garage. That doesn't happen.
I remember at the time people were criticizing his garage manager, his head mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it would be odd if after decades of being a crew chief and team manager that suddenly Tom Hausworth didn't know how to do it.
Right.
That seems highly unlikely.
Yeah, it seemed a little harsh to me as well. And it was, as I recall, his teammate was Rossi. Would there, it's always good to go
when it was Lorenzo, I think.
Was it Lorenzo?
I don't think,
because he was on the red line.
I think that's when Rossi went to Ducati.
Oh, yes, that is correct. Because it was Colin, Edwards, Ben Spies, which was really a fun time for MotoGP.
Yeah.
Are we going to get another American? What about Roberts?
So he won.
Yeah.
Which is great for him. That's his 3rd Moto2 win of his career. And if I remember right, Brno was the site of his first podium in Moto2 as well. So he goes well there for one. But he's been battling injuries. Like, this year was tough for him because he came back from even at the start of the season, he still had that wrist injury that was much worse than I think he let on, and really held him back quite a bit. So I'm happy that he's, coming good again and being able to show what he can do. Is there a road to GP for him? I don't know. He has everything in his favor being an American because they so desperately want an American in Grand Prix, but you got to be good enough. Like that might be the, what gets you the ride.
And you have to be lucky to
be good.
Like a wrist fracture can be career ending.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Roberts do well. I've seen some interviews with him. He's really likable.
Really nice guy. Yeah. I would say if you're rooting for American riders in GP, he's your best bet right now. I don't think there's a better option right now. But it's interesting that who could beat Marquez. And I would say in Grand Prix, the only one who I think has the talent is probably Acosta.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think he's got the bike, and I don't think he's got the temperament yet. Because I think, now what's funny is I think if you had paired 2014 Marquez, or 13, whatever, rookie Marquez and rookie Acosta, they might have been pretty dang close.
Yes.
On equal equipment, they probably were pretty close talent-wise. But now you pit rookie Acosta, who maybe isn't quite there, with extremely polished and mature Marquez on a Ducati. I don't think he can make up the difference.
You would have to put Marquez back on a KTM.
Yeah, right. And I love that there's even rumors of that. Right?
Are there really?
Oh yeah. Because I forget the group. I think it's an Indian bike manufacturer that is invested heavily in KTM and in the race program. Apparently, the rumor I saw, I don't know if there's probably no validity to it, but they basically went to the KTM race leadership and said, we will not accept not having Marquez in the team in 2027.
Well, 2027 maybe like it's going to be a different ball.
Yeah, I think that's
right?
their point is like, hey, contracts recycle at that time.
Everybody's going to be on a new
everything,
new chassis,
and it was basically like the checkbook's open, make it happen. And so I don't know. It's interesting because that would also put the other part that's interesting about it is it put it put Marquez back on a Red Bull team, which I think also would be his preference.
Right, that's his biggest sponsor.
But I mean, Marquez seems still in his career so focused on winning in championships that I just can't imagine him being willing to go, yeah, I'll leave the best bike in the best situation to go there for some money. I don't think the money hardly matters to him at that level.
You know, you said something the last podcast that really stuck with me. And it's, you know, we're looking at what's going on and Marquez is probably going to win this year and he's probably going to win next year.
Yeah.
But you said something about we're going to look back at this time in 5 years and all be like, I remember watching Marquez. Peak Marquez 5 years ago at Brno is where he had the career-ending arm injury.
Well, 5 years of Jerez. But
Jerez, you're right.
To the day.
Oh, okay. It was 5 years to the day. All right. That's where I misunderstood. Yeah. But like to go like from 5 years to he's probably never going to be on a MotoGP bike again. I remember saying after that injury, we will never see him. He might win a few races here and there, but he'll never win another championship. Boy, I'm going to eat my words on that one.
Yeah.
I think he's, you know, love him or hate him, but his talent is undeniable.
Yeah.
Here's the other question. Is he going to be the GOAT? Is he going to be the greatest of all time? Is he going to be better than Rossi and Agostini? And
you argue that he isn't already.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you go on sheer wins and championships, you still have Rossi, you still have Agostini and stuff like that. But I think the only person who will argue that Agostini is still the best is probably Agostini. He seems quite proud of it. You know, he's probably his biggest fan. But I can see the argument for Rossi still, right? Because he was so dominant for so long, and he switched manufacturers. Like that's kind of a little, you know, checkbox for some of these, you know, top guys. But in terms of like managing racing at this level, at this long, and I don't know, I can't really see right now Marquez not surpassing his championship total and his win total. It seems highly unlikely that that's going to happen.
Especially with the dominance we're seeing now. Nobody can touch him.
It seems really unlikely that won't happen. So if the way you compare and say who's the greatest is statistics, I don't think there's going to be a lot of statistics left for Rossi. And so then it has to be something else a little less tangible, right? A little more subjective if you aren't going to say Marquez is the best. So the thing that's interesting though is that I always come back to is who's going to beat him? How does somebody beat him? And I don't think it's somebody in MotoGP right now. I just can't see, barring another injury, barring retirement, barring whatever, I don't see how any of the guys in GP right now are going to like push him over and take away the championship.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody.
So then is it Moto2? And who in Moto2 could step up and do it? Right? Like there's Diego Moreira, who seems very talented, but pretty hot and cold. There's Davide Alonso, who was amazing on a Moto3 bike. Hasn't quite figured out Moto2 yet. So I don't know. Is it somebody that's not even in the series at all? You know, there's like the Red Bull Rookies Cup, and now there's these Ovale Cups. It might be somebody who's much, much, much younger still that's actually going to come in and have to be better.
I mean, we're going a little into like nuance and deep here, but I really think the feeder programs, Moto3, Moto2, may not be right for bringing up the best talent. Because how you ride a Moto3 bike is so wildly different than how you ride a Moto2 bike. And how many kids have we seen who ride extraordinary on a Moto3 bike and they get to a Moto2 and they just flounder? Right? And even like look at Iagora. Coming from the Moto2 to the MotoGP. Oh my gosh. Like we were all like so excited about him. But, you know, the way you ride a Moto2 bike with the big sweeping lines and the big arcs and stuff like that's getting him into trouble. on the MotoGP bike, which is much more point and shoot. It's similar to how, if you're doing a track day, how you ride an Ninja 400 is not how you ride a Panigale on a track. And I think, Iagora is struggling with that whole, he falls into these big flowing, sweeping things and he's had just crash after crash after
So I'm big too.
Yeah, I think he's like fighting like injuries and it makes me sad. I was so excited about how well he was doing like at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And again, him and Mir seem to be having nothing but bad luck.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for bad luck, Mir would have no luck.
Oh man, that poor guy. That poor guy taken out again.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about since the last time we spoke was I finally went and saw the F1 Mirror.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you saw it. What did you think of it?
It's excellent. It is by far the best racing movie I've ever watched.
It might be the best racing movie since Steve McQueen's Le Mans.
I think in terms of that one was good too. But
like the world has changed since, right? Like how movies are made.
Expectations of the movie are very high now.
Well, and the pacing of the movie, like you watch Le Mans now, Le Mans is obviously a movie for a race fan partner.
Yep.
There's so much like homage to the super fan.
Yep.
Like Steve McQueen must have made that movie for himself.
Yeah.
Where what I thought F1 did so well was it brought in someone who may only have a casual interest in racing and made it compelling and interesting and exciting and real stakes, real tension without it being so ridiculous that it was implausible. And,
there was no biker boys moments.
was going backwards on the race.
It was very believable. I mean, some of it's a bit inflated for drama and to compress how long these things take. So I went and watched it in one of the bigger theaters, with the big screen and the luxury chairs and all that fancy stuff. But I can remember sitting in the seat and the moments, the ones I remember very vividly, because I raced quite a bit, and the moments of when they're sitting on the grid and the lights are going, the tension that it creates, like I remember feeling my heart rate elevate. I was a little sweaty. Like I was feeling anxious about the race.
As a racer, it puts you into the moment of the lights are about to go up.
Like I remember those moments, and it almost gives you that kind of like feeling. But I was like, that's pretty damn amazing, because I don't race cars, and this movie's portraying it so well that it feels like that to me right now. So I was really impressed. So if you've not seen it yet, you got to go see it. It's very, very good.
Yeah, I subscribe to the Ernest Hemingway quote that there's only 3 sports: bullfighting, which I'm adamantly opposed to, mountain climbing, and racing. Everything else is games.
Just a game. Yep.
Everything else is a game played on the grass.
Yeah.
And I love that about it, because racing is, to me, it's the purest form of sport and competition, right? If you go all the way back to before time, the first competition was probably like 2 guys running. Yeah. And like, I'm going to run faster. Yep. Right. Because maybe it was, I got to catch the woolly mammoth or whatever. The joke has always been, when did the first motorcycle race take place?
When the second motorcycle.
The moment the second motorcycle was built, right? Like,
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think it's completely true, right? Everybody, like when you were a kid, you got a new bicycle. Where did I want to go? See if I can go faster than my buddy. Yeah. Right? Like, so the way F1 kind of captured that. Yeah. And Brad Pitt, my gosh, such a charming, he was the perfect guy. He's
either like putting on his like Steve McQueen mask for that movie, because I think he idolizes him to some extent, but he's, I'm not a massive like Brad Pitt fan. I do like his movies, but he's very well transitioned from young Brad Pitt, Fight Club Brad Pitt, into like Robert Redford-esque kind of character, right? He's like age, and you're like, oh, actually, I like this version too. This one's good,
I think I like this version of Brad Pitt better than younger Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's the roles that he's taking on. Sure. We're going on to a movie thing here, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think, is one of the greatest movies. Really like that was a theater moment. Like everyone says, I hate going to the theater. Well, we went to Broovies, which is a theater locally where you can have beer in the theater.
I think based on the name they put.
Yeah, Broovies, right? Yeah. So you go into theater, you can have a burger and a beer, and you watch the movie. And we go to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and like at the end of the movie, when the flamethrower comes out and stuff like that, the audience was roaring, like the laughter, and it was just one of the greatest movie experiences. And when I went to go see Formula One, you know, we went at a matinee, we did the same thing. We did a big screen and the audience was cheering.
Yeah.
You know, and like how often does that happen in movies anymore? Like it happened like in the Avengers Endgame movie when Captain America picked up the hammer, the audience cheered, you know. So I think if you haven't seen it yet, go see F1.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. No endorsement. We're not getting paid to say this.
I wish we were.
I don't think that their marketing budget doesn't reach this.
Yeah, it doesn't quite get to us. I did have one other question I wanted to ask you. So, hypothetical.
All right.
This is just for fun. Hypothetical. If you could put a second, if you had space in your garage, hypothetical, if you could park any other bike in here, no cost, but it's got to be a bike you keep. You got to ride it.
Oh, we're talking like a lifetime bike. If you could have any motorcycle on the planet, or one that's actually one I could obtain, or
one that could be available today.
one that could be available.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a brand new bike. It could be an old.
Okay. So there's two ways to answer this, right? Yeah. So like, if it's any bike on the planet, I would want a V5 Honda.
Well, okay, that's
right.
Yeah,
that's, but like
so on the unobtainium.
But that's on the unobtainium.
Yeah,
We were talking to some friends the other day that at Moto Station, a guy came through and he had one in the back of his trailer that he had figured out. And there's the engine sitting there in the chassis.
Really?
And it was just sitting there. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I guess the magnesium case covers got brittle and cracked. And so they didn't I don't know. So
he had one, huh?
He had one. Yeah. Interesting. I'll show me photos. But
so a bike you're going to ride.
A bike I'm going to ride that anyone, this is a harder question than I would have thought.
I think it's kind of a fun question because it's.
Well, let me ask you, if you have the question, you probably have a bike in mind.
Well, I've got a couple.
Okay.
I'll go through some ideas. So I have the race bike. I've got the Aprilia, the RSB4, and I love that thing. It's a lot of fun.
I love mine. Yeah.
I am somewhat, and this is going to sound so strange. So we bought the Aprilia. I bought the Aprilia because I wanted something different and a little quirky and unique and something that isn't really seen a lot. I've always kind of liked them. The bike one of the bikes I think I would want is the current CBR 1000 Triple R race version. Something about it I am just kind of enamored with. Oh, I think it's very, very cool. And you don't, and how weird is this? I never see Hondas at the racetrack anymore.
I know, they're not around.
I have no idea why. I see Yamahas, I see Kawasaki's.
Aprilias came out of nowhere.
A bunch of Aprilias now.
Which is, we don't even have a dealer in the state.
Translators.
Yeah, I guess we started it.
I think that one would be a very interesting race bike. So if Honda's listening, you should send us one of those because I'd love to ride one.
And it's gorgeous too. The red wine blue. Oh my gosh.
I'm kind of in love with that thing right now. I think it'd be a fascinating thing to ride. I may get bored of it in 2 years, but I think right now I'm very it's very appealing to me. If I was to get a street bike, because the point in my life I'm at, I don't have time to do the long multi-day trips like you guys do, which maybe someday, but not right now. I see them on the street every once in a while, and every time I see one, I go, damn, that's a good looking bike. And I kind of think, as it's just street commuter, rip around on a weekend kind of bike, I weirdly think that Indian FTR.
Oh, no kidding.
It is such a
that surprises me.
It's such a pretty bike. I don't know why. Because
you and I both like that. Remember that Sportster, the orange Sportster that they came out? That was like the flat track.
Yeah, same idea.
Yeah, loved that thing. They sold like 9 of them. And
yeah.
But yeah, apparently don't make motorcycles for us because we're too.
But that FTR. And I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. I'm not even sure if they still make them. But I see them every once in a while, and I'm like, that's just such a...
I think they are good. They sound good.
Yeah.
I don't know how well they handle, but for a street bike, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I just want to... Yeah, I just want to rip around and look cool on it. That's all I want.
So, all right. So you kind of sparked I think there's 3 things that I find really compelling. Mm-hmm. And one of them is probably the worst idea in the world that I would probably ride once and get rid of it. And I'll start with that one. But I would freaking love a Ural sidecar, 2-wheel drive. Ooh. So I could take my dog on dirt roads. So I could take my dog motorcycling.
It's a great photo op with nothing.
Yeah, like my dad has one. I've ridden it like once. It was so much fun. He has a BMW.
Yeah.
Like a garage build. And even that was just flying the car was hilarious. You're like slide the thing sideways through dirt. Like it was just all laughter. but I don't know where he put it. And
Not here. Yeah.
and like the Urals, I've heard stories of people like making push rods out of old screwdrivers because there's the parts availability in the
Probably
place
just as well. Yeah.
So that aside, I think it's two older bikes that really intrigued me. One would be a Cagiva Elephant. And I don't know if many people even know what that is, but like it won
You'll
with
have to put a
carb.
photo up or something.
Yeah, I did if you watch my, I did a review of the Multistrada and I did a whole thing of where the Multistrada came from. And it came from the Cagiva Elephant, which was built to win
really
Dakar.
big tank
Yeah.
in front. Yeah.
Yeah, Cagiva had all the money. Ducati was going out of business. And so they bought Ducati for the motor and put it into a dirt bike chassis and went on and won Dakar like four years in a row or something like that. So, and they had, they're amazing.
Fun one.
They're totally like, they had a special compartment under the back seat that it came from the side that you could put stuff in, but that'd be fun. And the other one would be an OG original RC30 or RC45 V4 Honda super bike. One of those handmade unobtainium.
They're really pretty too. They're kind of special.
Yeah, but like, would I ride it is the thing, or would I put it on the wall in the living room and just look at it?
Stalk at it.
I would ride it. I would have to ride it.
You know what's funny? A friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, came out to. It's funny. He gave us the track day that you missed. Anyway, he brought. He's gotten really into the older Suzuki GSXRs, like the S-Rads.
Oh, the big ones with the Donald Duck tail, the big giant tail
It
section.
was so he brought one. I forget what year he brought it.
He's rad.
Yeah, but it was a 98, 99. So
Oh yeah.
that kind of era.
With the paint that looked like paper is being torn off the side.
He brought down really nice guy, brought it to the track day. And it was parked there sitting, and then across it is my Aprilia, which is much more sleek, slim, modern. I mean, there's basically no tail on the Aprilia. And then you look at the tail on this.
It's bigger than all the bodywork.
It looks like a lunch pail that a construction worker would take. It's huge.
Do you remember the TLR? Like,
Yeah, I actually thought those were really cool.
but the tail section
was
is
also huge.
enormous. It's bigger than the front windscreen on these bikes sitting over here. It was so big.
Yeah.
Like the top would come off and you could put your dog in there.
I mean, it's probably. Well, anyway, I was teasing him. I was like, it probably qualifies for the bagger class if you wanted because of that huge bagger on the back. But anyway, he's kind of what inspired this question because he just says like, I've just always been into these weird old Suzukis and I just wanted them. And he's got like 2 or 3 of them now that he's collected, but I think they're kind of fun bikes.
I have to confess, every time I get an itch and I go back and I find an old bike that I wanted as a kid and buy it, it's always wildly disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of come to the conclusion that old bikes, like old cars, are more fun to look at and imagine what it's like to ride them than what it actually is like to ride them.
Yep.
They're like, they don't turn, like if you ride at a level of proficiency, you're like, you get frustrated really quickly. Like,
Because it just isn't as...
the brakes literally feel like wood blocks on the rotors, or the frame is flexible and twisty. And
Yeah.
so I've been looking. So here's something else. I was kind of looking at, they've been hitting like Cop Art and some of these places like that, looking at, what mid-tier shit boxes are now affordable and available that would still be interesting. Something like in the $2,000 price range, like that would be worth buying and worth putting some energy into. And I was going through there's nothing out there in that price point anymore, which makes me kind of sad.
Right.
But, what bike in that price, like what would you ride? It's like 15 years old.
Oh.
It was interesting-ish then, but doesn't have any value anymore because it's in that window. It's not old enough to be cool yet. Like that. The
retro yet.
Yeah, it's not the S-Rad yet.
So when I was young, and I would my dad would get all the magazines, and I think I read the magazines more than he did when I was little. I would pour through every ad. I pour through every little review. I knew everything about all the street bikes at the time, and I was too young to even have a bike really. But I remember when the 1998, the first R6 came out.
Oh yeah.
And it was the white or the blue with the white blocks. and it looked like the future.
It did,
like
right?
the future. And now you look at it and it's old, but at the time it was this spacecraft.
I remember the taillights. Like the taillights, those are so neat. And now you look at them now and you're like, didn't age that well.
But at the time, that was probably the one that I sort of like pined after as a young kid was the R6, because it was like, it seemed like, oh, in just a few years, that could be, I could have that, you know? So that's, and I still, every once in a while, I see one around. They're usually very ratty now. They're not well maintained typically. I can't actually say that I've ever seen a clean used one. But that was probably the one that I wanted, and still, like, when I see it, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I liked those a lot, you know?
I was flipping through, and I found one a couple days ago that was really interesting. An old, like, original 690 Duke.
Yeah,
old KTM Duke.
Yep.
Like, remember when those things came out?
Yeah, I had the 690 SM.
Yeah, you had the one with the pointy one. You didn't have like the brunt nose one.
No, I had the Spy versus Spy.
Yeah, I rode that bike. That bike was cool.
It was a fun bike. It was not a pretty bike. It was
no, and like you'd go to jail if you had that bike for long. Like that front wheel did not like being on the ground.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to rip around and commute on. But yeah, on the freeway it was out of its depth very quickly. But for commuting around, it was a bunch of fun. So.
Well, even like the first Aprilias when they came back with the Rotax motors, right? Not when they came back, when they got big, right?
Yep.
And like we used to joke that the engine was so ugly only a mother could love it. But those engines ran forever. And like you can find those now for pretty cheap. Some of these early Aprilias. And they were heavy. They were like 500 pounds. Yeah. They made like almost 100 horsepower. For a super bike.
Massive 100 horsepower.
Almost 100 horsepower.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We have to get some.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I keep thinking like it'd be fun to do like a winter project bike. Yeah. The other thought that I have in my mind too might be interesting would be to, you know, you see kids all the time, they crash R3s and they don't know what to do with them. And like, what if you took an R3 and
there was
what could you turn it into?
I don't know if it was the R3. I want to say it was whatever is Honda's little one. Is it like a CB 500 or CB?
They make
it's a small one like an R3.
Yeah, they make a 300, a CBR 300. Yeah.
I saw one of those that somebody had taken the bodywork off and done like a cafe sort of thing, and it was actually pretty good looking. The R3 is without the bodywork is not good looking.
No, you'd have to do a lot to it, like the way the gauges are attached and things like that. But that's where naked bikes came from, right? That, you know, in the 80s, especially like the early Gixxers and your early, you know, before the Hurricanes, and you'd crash them and you couldn't replace the bodywork. So people would just like find a big round headlight from a cruiser and stick it on the front and put on a pair of, they would drill 2 holes in the triple clamp for a 2-bar and away you'd go. Yep. And that's where that whole genre of motorcycle came from. And I was talking to my buddy Greg, who works for Aprilia, and they're getting a lot of flack because people are saying, well, the Tuono's not a naked bike. And it's
too much fairing.
It's too much fairing, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why are we putting bikes into these little pigeonholes? That is it a hooligan bike? Is it a naked bike? Is it a super bike with a 2-bar?
Yeah.
Like why are these names determining what class of bike has to fall into?
Just like the bike, man.
Yeah, just like the bike. Like, why are we doing that? You know, like, because it seems like their bikes are more segmented than they've ever been.
I think the bigger concern I have is that maybe it's because the bike segments, but like the rider segments. It seems like the riders are like, you're not one of my people because your bike doesn't look like my bike.
Oh my gosh, we are really like, you have like the cruisers, you have the street stunters. Is that what they call them now? Like the kids who ride around packs on the freeway and block traffic. You have
the criminals, I think, is that's actually what you're after.
The old farts like you and I that are, that have, more than one bike in the garage and just,
It's fun though when you get to see people, all the different groups, because there are moments when you get to see them all kind of come together, and you do get the almost like obligatory wave as they, almost everybody does that, kind of regardless of what bike you're on.
Right. Except for me. If you're on a bike I don't like, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just kidding.
They're like, that's that CanyonChasers guy. He's such a jerk. So I love that part of the community part, but I don't feel like I see nearly as much kind of mingling as I feel like I once did. And I don't know if that's probably speaking to a bigger problem that we're dealing with, but it doesn't feel as everyone's welcome as I feel like it used to anyway. Maybe that's just me.
So I grew up in a biker family, right? Like dad was a Harley man biker. And I remember as a kid we did Sturgis several times. And I remember like being kind of bored at Sturgis because you're like, oh, look at a Softail, look at Softail, a Road Glide. Oh, Softail.
Yeah.
And then the first time I did, it wasn't even MotoGP, it was World Superbike at Laguna Seca. And just being wowed by the diversity in motorcycles. You would go down to Cannery Row and they would have like a little whatever, and there'd be like this CBX, the 6-cylinder Honda parked next to like some old full skirt Fender Indian, like the 4-cylinder one. Like, and I was just floored by like, you'd see like the GTS 1000 with the weird front end with just the diversity of motorcycles was incredible. And you don't see anything like that anymore.
And maybe at race events you still do. Admittedly, I haven't been to a major race event since before COVID, actually.
Yeah, me either. Right.
So maybe that's on me. Maybe I need to go get out more. Maybe I need to go.
I miss so much Laguna Seca hosting races because, I've done races at other venues, but there was something about, Laguna Seca, you go down to Cannery Row in Monterey and, like the racetrack itself is in this bowl. And so like even just going there, you ride Laurel's Grade, right? And then you drop into the track and it's like, do you remember that old movie Highlander where they did those funny transitions between like they would pass through the mountain and and it felt like that going into Laguna Seca. You come over the hill and you look down in there and there's the race bikes and the tents and the people and you're just kind of in this like little Disneyland world of magic for the whole day. And then it was over and then you went down to Cannery Row and it was like all the people, you're bumping into the same people over the 4 days, and it was absolutely one of the coolest motorcycle events I had ever done. I kept going to Laguna Seca for as long as they were doing big events. It was just incredible. And
on that last question, then we'll probably end it here. If you could go to any motorcycle event in the world next year, which one would it be? So you have the whole calendar year, all of the events on the calendar. If you could go to one of them, which one would you go?
All right, so I have 3, and maybe we should discuss which 3 that are most interesting to me. Maybe 4, right? Silverstone.
All of them.
Oh, okay. Silverstone, right?
Well, Silverstone what? GP?
MotoGP. Okay, that's all going to be MotoGP. Like, MotoGP really captures my imagination. Silverstone, Assen, Mugello, or Phillip Island? Now, I don't know. Like they're all like
paid. You're going to one of them.
I'd probably go to Phillip Island then, because if it's all expense paid, because they're hardest to get to.
It is hard to get to Phillip Island. What is it about Phillip Island?
I think because it's such a motorcycle specific track, like every rider loves it. What I don't like about Phillip Island is the wind. It makes it just insanely dangerous, but it's just kind of, I don't know. It's a motorcycle. Like I think that's all the venues that I really like. They're all motorcycle. Silverstone is a flowy, turny track. And, like Assen, come on. Like that's, the cathedral of speed. It's the longest running racetrack. Even though I think where it isn't as pretty. It's kind of like flat and whatever. Italy, I've been to Mugello, but I haven't been there for a MotoGP race. It's a cool little place.
Right.
It's in
the hills.
Yeah, it's really pretty. But I think Phillip Island might. And if you listen to the Oxley Bomb podcast, he really likes one of the Malaysian ones where it's a beach town. I can't think of what race it is. Or
it's Sepang.
Sepang.
It is Malaysia.
Yeah, where they kick out all the surfers. Like there's nothing there. It's just, they kick out all the surfers and they all kind of go into this beach town and everyone's riding scooters around.
Yeah.
That might be the closest thing to what Laguna Seca used to be.
Interesting.
He says that's his favorite on the calendar, but it's hard to get to.
Well, it's probably similar to Australia, maybe even worse, actually.
Yeah, there's like no airport. You have to
get to Sepang.
You take like a boat.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you?
I would say if it's Grand Prix, Mugello is, because I've never been to Italy.
Oh yeah.
So for me, Mugello is probably the top of my Grand Prix list. Phillip Island would also be great, also because then you get to go to Australia. I think Isle of Man would be.
I didn't even consider Isle of Man, because how much longer is Isle of Man going to be going?
And that's kind of the other thing of it is like, how much longer does this get to exist in this world? Like, it's sort of amazing it's around still. You know, it doesn't seem like it ought to be.
I might have to change my answer and go with Isle of Man.
I think Isle of Man, the other part about Isle of Man that I like is, I think because it doesn't draw big name racers. I mean, they're big names within road racing, but they're not big names otherwise. Even then, they're like some British dude that like rolled up in a van and like he's here for.
No, I think that's what makes it so charming.
What I love about it is like, I think, and the event lasts for, I think, over 2 weeks. I can't remember now, but it's like a long event. I think because it's long and you have so much exposure to the riders and the fans and the organizers that it almost develops its own little culture during the event alone. Like you get to have a little community during the event because everyone's just intermingling and you're all on an island. You're all going to have to get to...
Well, and for us, it's easy because it's English speaking. It's easy to navigate.
Convenient, for sure.
I am a big fan of the Scotch from that part of the world and the UK cuisine.
But all of the friends I've got, like Corey went a few years.
Right. I had a good friend, Ken, who went.
And he's like, Corey's been around racing as long as I have and done all kinds of other stuff too beyond it. He even came back. He's like, there's nothing like standing on the edge of the road and they go ripping past at, buck 40, buck 60 or whatever it is. Like, there's nothing quite like that feeling because you don't realize you're so close. So Isle of Man's pretty high on my list. I think I definitely have to go there soon before it doesn't get to exist anymore. Because we used to have a pseudo Isle of Man here. We had Pikes Peak.
Well, we had more than just Pikes Peak. There was also, I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. It was in Steamboat Springs. They would do a historical motorcycle racing event in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And it was a street course. It was a TT course like Isle of Man. And it was absolutely fantastic. I went 1 year. I went the last year, and then it came to Park City for 1 year. So we had a TT race in 1999. I had the hat forever. It's the hat park. It was 1999. They did the vintage racing TT race here in Park City, and where we go mountain biking, there's the big parking lot, and if you go just north, there's that little neighborhood just north of where we parked to go mountain biking. That was part of the TT course. Yeah, and it was. Yeah, and then so like these things are dying. They're going away.
They almost have to.
Yeah, when we did the one in Park City, I volunteered and we were helping with like controlling the track and like months and months of telling the locals what was going on. The locals had no idea. They were livid. I remember where I was, the race was live and a lady had to get to a wedding and she almost ran me over to get onto the course to get to the wedding. So like with motorcycle races come like, they were old bikes. They weren't that fast, but they were on old tires.
Still on old brakes.
Curved. Yeah. Like hay bales.
Jeez.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, I think Mugello from MotoGP race. Phillip Island, I think, would be amazing too. I don't know if Phillip Island is as amazing as a spectator. That's what I've wondered before.
I've talked to people who have been, so our buddy Scott has been to Phillip Island. Our buddy Mike did World Superbike at Phillip Island. I might agree with you that it may not be like the MotoGP event that's just kind of bonkers and crazy. Like I think any of the Spanish GPs would be where they storm the track at the end of the race or something like that. To be with that many like-minded idiots like us who just love this sport at that level.
Yeah. It is funny because I've heard them talk about before that they're always surprised at how well attended Sachsenring is, the German round.
Yeah.
When it's a foregone conclusion that Marquez is going to win the race, and it's not that great of a venue, but it's packed, and there's no German riders in the GP at all. It's like they're just fans, which is cool. So
I think it's kind of a pretty track. Like
the track itself is all right. I think it's kind of set in like an industrial park.
And it's pretty small, but like they have like the corner that goes around that little gwib of trees that's always good for drama. I always get Sachsenring and Nürburgring, or not Sachsen. What's the other? Spielberg. Like those names are similar enough. I always get them transposed in my head as to. So last round I thought it was Spielberg, and I'm like, oh, yeah, really a fan of that track. Like that's just an F1 track. Yeah, it's a point and shoot track, and it's small and it's pretty.
Yeah.
Freaking in Austria.
Yeah.
Up on the hill, like
it's funny because it's almost the opposite of Sachsenring because it's nothing but fast straights and hard braking. Where Sachsenring's like
Almost a go-kart track.
on your side. That's all it is.
Right.
It's all on the side. So
Well, Mugello is really pretty when you're there, and there's a little town just outside. Mugello is unbelievably pretty. You're just not far from like all the vineyards in Tuscany. It was one of my highlights of our trip to Italy was Mugello.
what's the plan for it?
Yeah.
Anything else to cover?
I don't think so. Oh, I was gonna say, if you guys would like, send us photos of your motorcycles or your trips, and we'll talk about them. We'll rate your motorcycle for good or for bad, or we'll tell you what you think, or send us photos of like your vacations and places that you've been, and we'll bring them up on the podcast, I think, maybe, and talk about them.
Yeah, I'm curious in the comments what's the one bike you'd add to your garage?
Yes, tell us what you would like.
What event would you go to? I think those are really interesting discussions because I love hearing people's reasons. Because some of them are really obscure, and I'm like, oh, I would never think that. I'm like, oh, that's a.
Or they'll bring up something like, oh, I wouldn't have thought, like Dakar would be all this. Would you like to see some Dakar? Freak.
So, yeah, share what you got. I'm curious to read about it.
And we make this for you guys. If there's something you want us to talk about, or if you have questions, or we haven't really spoken much about riding technique or any of these other things. I thought we would talk about Vanishing Point, but maybe we'll put that off until next time or whatever. Let us know if you have questions. We'll talk about it. Maybe we can go deep dive into especially with your racing background. When we made the rear brake video, you and I had big long discussions on how to formulate that script, and that video has been a really solid performer with lots of questions. People have lots of questions about the rear brake, so bring it up. We'll talk about it.
Awesome. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.